or the rats. Go to sleep." Nevertheless, he felt obliged to add a few words of instruction for the benefit of these young creatures, and he continued:— "It's a thing from the Jardin des Plantes. It's used for fierce animals. There's a whole shop full of them there. All you've got to do is to climb over a wall, crawl through a window, and pass through a door. You can get as much as you want." As he spoke, he wrapped the younger one up bodily in a fold of the blanket, and the little one murmured:— "Oh! how good that is! It's warm." Gavroche cast a pleased eye on the blanket. "That's from the Jardin des Plantes too," said he. "I took that from the monkeys." And, pointing out to the eldest the mat on which he was lying, a very thick and admirably made mat, he added:— "That belonged to the giraffe." After a pause, he went on:— "The beasts had all these things. I took them away from them. It didn't trouble them. I told them, 'It's for the elephant.'" He paused, then resumed:— "You crawl over the walls, and you don't care a straw for the government. So there now!" The two children gazed with timid and stupefied respect on this intrepid and ingenious being, a vagabond like themselves, isolated like themselves, frail like themselves, who had something admirable and all-powerful about him, who seemed supernatural to them, and whose physiognomy was composed of all the grimaces of an old mountebank, mingled with the most ingenious and charming smiles. "Monsieur," ventured the elder timidly, "you are not afraid of the police, then?" Gavroche contented himself with replying:— "Brat! Nobody says police, they say bobbies." The smaller had his eyes wide open, but he said nothing. As he was on the edge of the mat, the elder being in the middle, Gavroche tucked the blanket round him as a mother might have done, and heightened the mat under his head with old rags, in such a way as to form a pillow for the child. Then he turned to the elder:— "Hey! We're jolly comfortable here, ain't we?" "Ah, yes," replied the elder, gazing at Gavroche with the expression of a saved angel. The two poor little children who had been soaked through began to grow warm once more. "Ah, by the way," continued Gavroche, "what were you bawling about?" And pointing out the little one to his brother:— "A mite like that, I've nothing to say about, but the idea of a big fellow like you crying, it's idiotic, you looked like a calf." "Gracious!" replied the child, "we have no lodging." "Bother!" retorted Gavroche. "You don't say lodgings, you say crib." "And then we were afraid of being alone like that at night." "You don't say night, you say darkmans." "Thank you, sir," said the child. "Listen," went on Gavroche, "you must never bawl again over anything. I'll take care of you. You shall see what fun we'll have. In summer, we'll go to the Glacière with Navet, one of my pals. We'll bathe in the Gare. We'll run stark naked in front of the rafts on the bridge at Austerlitz. That makes the laundresses raging. They scream, they get mad, and if you only knew how ridiculous they are. We'll go and see the man skeleton. And then I'll take you to the play. I'll take you to see Frédéric Lemaître. I have tickets, I know some of the actors. I even played in a piece once. There were a lot of us fellers, and we ran under a cloth, and that made the sea. I'll get you an engagement at my theatre. We'll go to see the savages. They ain't real, those savages ain't. They wear pink tights that go all in wrinkles, and you can see where their elbows have been darned with white. Then we'll go to the opera. We'll get in with the hired applauders. The opera clerk is well managed. I wouldn't associate with the clerk on the boulevard. At the opera, just fancy, some of them pay 20 sous, but they're ninnies. They're called dishclouts. And then we'll go to see the guillotine work. I'll show you the executioner. He lives in the Rue des Marais, Monsieur Sanson. He has a letter-box at his door. Ah, we'll have famous fun." At that moment, a drop of wax fell on Gavroche's finger and recalled him to the realities of life. "The deuce!" said he. "There's the wick giving out. Attention! I can't spend more than a sou a month on my lighting. When a body goes to bed, he must sleep. We haven't the time to read Monsieur Paul de Kock's romances. And besides, the light might pass through the cracks of the porte cochère, and all the bobbies need to do is to see it." "And then," remarked the elder timidly, he alone dared to talk to Gavroche and reply to him, "a spark might fall in the straw, and we must look out and not burn the house down." "People don't say burn the house down," remarked Gavroche, "they say blaze the crib." The storm increased in violence, and the heavy downpour beat upon the back of the colossus amid claps of thunder. "You're taken in, rain," said Gavroche. "It amuses me to hear the decanter run down the legs of the house. Winter is a stupid. It wastes its merchandise, it loses its labor. It can't wet us, and that makes it kick up a row. Old water carrier that it is." This allusion to the thunder, all the consequences of which Gavroche, in his character of a philosopher of the 19th century, accepted, was followed by a broad flash of lightning, so dazzling that a hint of it entered the belly of the elephant through the crack. Almost at the same instant, the thunder rumbled with great fury. The two little creatures uttered a shriek, and started up so eagerly that the network came near being displaced. But Gavroche turned his bold face to them, and took advantage of the clap of thunder to burst into a laugh. "Calm down, children. Don't topple over the edifice. That's fine, first-class thunder, all right. That's no slouch of a streak of lightning. Bravo for the good God. Deuce take it. It's almost as good as it is at the Ambigu." That said, he restored order in the netting, pushed the two children gently down on the bed, pressed their knees, in order to stretch them out at full length, and exclaimed:— "Since the good God is lighting his candle, I can blow out mine. Now, babes, now, my young humans, you must shut your peepers. It's very bad not to sleep. It'll make you swallow the strainer, or as they say, in fashionable society, stink in the gullet. Wrap yourself up well in the hide. I'm going to put out the light. Are you ready?" "Yes," murmured the elder, "I'm all right. I seem to have feathers under my head." "People don't say head," cried Gavroche, "they say nut." The two children nestled close to each other. Gavroche finished arranging them on the mat, drew the blanket up to their very ears, and repeated, for the third time, his injunction in the heretical tongue, "Shut your peepers!" And he snuffed out his tiny light. Hardly had the light been extinguished, when a peculiar trembling began to affect the netting under which the three children lay. It consisted of a multitude of dull scratches, which produced a metallic sound, as if claws and teeth were gnawing at the copper wire. This was accompanied by all sorts of little piercing cries. The little 5-year-old boy, on hearing this hubbub overhead, and chilled with terror, jogged his brother's elbow, but the elder brother had already shut his peepers, as Gavroche had ordered. Then the little one, who could no longer control his terror, questioned Gavroche, but in a very low tone and with bated breath:— "Sir?" "Hey?" said Gavroche, who had just closed his eyes. "What is that?" "It's the rats," replied Gavroche, and he laid his head down on the mat again. The rats, in fact, who swarmed by thousands in the carcass of the elephant, and who were the living black spots which we have already mentioned, had been held in awe by the flame of the candle, so long as it had been lighted, but as soon as the cavern, which was the same as their city, had returned to darkness, scenting what the good story-teller Perrault calls fresh meat, they had hurled themselves in throngs on Gavroche's tent, and had climbed to the top of it, and had begun to bite the meshes as though seeking to pierce this new-fangled trap. Still the little one could not sleep. "Sir?" he began again. "Hey?" said Gavroche. "What are rats?" "They are mice." This explanation reassured the child a little. He had seen white mice in the course of his life, and he was not afraid of them. Nevertheless, he lifted up his voice once more. "Sir?" "Hey?" said Gavroche again. "Why don't you have a cat?" "I did have one," replied Gavroche. "I brought one here, but they ate her." This second explanation undid the work of the first, and the little fellow